You likely know the ending to the parable of the prodigal son. The rebellious younger sibling finally returns home. The father runs out to embrace him, and a lavish celebration begins. But the narrative doesn't actually end inside that banquet hall. Jesus shifts our focus out to the dark fields, where the older brother is returning from work. He hears the music and the dancing, but he refuses to go inside. Notice what he does next. Instead of walking in to ask his father what is happening, he summons a servant for an explanation. His communication with his own father has broken down so completely that he relies on second-hand information. Jesus is intentionally addressing two very different audiences here. The younger son represents the openly immoral people gathering to listen, the obvious lostness of rebellion. The older son represents the religious leaders. This is the hidden lostness of strict rule-keeping religion. The older brother has lived his entire life in the father's house, never squandering a single coin. Yet he is entirely incapable of entering the father's joy. Geographical proximity to the father does not guarantee spiritual communion. You can be utterly lost while standing faithfully in your own front yard. In the ancient Near East, an eldest son carried intense cultural responsibilities. As the firstborn, he was expected to preserve family unity, seek out wandering siblings, and serve as a co-host at family banquets. By refusing to enter the feast, the older brother completely abandons this vocation. Worse, he publicly insults his father. In an honor and shame culture, boycotting a family celebration humiliates the patriarch in front of his entire community. The cultural expectation would be for the father to demand obedience, or even disinherit the son on the spot. Instead, the father does something completely unexpected. He leaves his own party, crossing a second threshold into the dark courtyard, to plead with his angry child. Out in the wind, the older brother unleashes his resentment. He points to his flawless record, declaring that he has served the father for years and never once disobeyed a single command. The specific Greek word he uses here is revealing. He says, "I have served you," using the verb douleo, which literally means to serve as a slave. This logic model shows how the older brother views his relationship. On one side, douleo, a transactional scale measuring labor against wages. On the other, the empty family crest representing unearned heir status. His words expose a transactional theology. He believes strict obedience forms a contract, stacking up units of labor that accumulate a debt of merit. The father is obligated to pay him. Here is the tragic irony of the older brother's existence. He legally possesses the unlimited wealth and status of an heir, yet psychologically he lives in the prison of a deprived, wage-earning employee. He complains that despite his flawless performance, the father never gave him even a young goat so he could celebrate with his friends. Notice the specific desire. He doesn't ask for a feast with the father. His ultimate goal is independence from the father, enjoying the estate's resources on his own terms. When he brings up the prodigal, he refuses to acknowledge their relationship. He won't even use the word brother. Instead, he accusingly refers to him as "this son of yours." This extreme alienation makes sense when you understand his merit-based worldview. If you measure your entire life by a transactional economy, extending unearned grace to someone undeserving is highly offensive. It feels like a direct threat to your own earned superiority. Self-righteous religion fractures human relationships. Because the older brother relies on rule-keeping to establish his worth, he has to compare himself to the failures of others to maintain that standing. Grace destroys his entire system of value. The father absorbs this aggressive public insult without a trace of anger. He gently reminds his older son that there is no need to fight for resources, because everything in the estate already belongs to him. The father then explicitly rejects the older son's slave language. He addresses him with the Greek word teknon, a term of deep, intimate family affection. He is reminding him, "You are my child." Then the father carefully corrects the older son's fractured worldview. Replying to the phrase, "this son of yours," the father says, "We had to celebrate because this brother of yours was dead and is alive." He deliberately reestablishes the covenant family bond. Two entirely opposing economies are colliding in that dark courtyard. The older son demands contractual wages based on perfect performance. The father offers unearned inheritance, relationship, and presence. God's grace is relentlessly determined to pursue every form of human alienation. The father leaves the house twice, once to run after the openly immoral rebel, and once to step outside the banquet and plead with the respectable, moralistic rule-keeper. And then Jesus stops talking. He deliberately leaves the story unresolved in the courtyard. We never find out what the older brother chooses to do. This open ending was a provocative challenge directed straight at the religious leaders listening to him. He was forcing them to answer the question, would they drop their ledgers of merit and join the celebration of grace? That exact same tension is directed at us. It asks if we are living in the backroom of religion, constantly measuring our own merit, nursing resentment, and believing God owes us for our good behavior. The invitation remains open. You can drop the exhausting slave mentality of earned righteousness, step out of the dark, and finally cross the threshold into the joy of the Father's house.